Hi, and welcome to Conductor, where we are two sisters on a mission to amplify women's voices on the podium.
Join us as we interview leaders in the field of choral music, share resources, and build a community for current and future teacher conductors, all while exploring the gender divide. I'm Kira Starr.
And I'm McKenna Stenson, and we are Conductor.
Hey, Conductor listeners, welcome to Conductor K12 edition. Conductor K12 is a new initiative created to feature K-12 choral music educators. K-12 educators are the foundation of choral music, and we want to provide a platform for their voices. We are so excited to hear from some of the wonderful educators that you nominated, and today we are thrilled to have Grace Jeong on with us. Grace, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are from, what you teach, and how many years you've been teaching?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Grace Jeong. I teach at Whitney M. Young Magnet High School in Chicago, Illinois. This is my 16th year at Whitney Young, but I've been a teacher for 22 years, and about 19 years was in Chicago public school system.
Incredible. Well, Grace, we are so excited to have you on today and cannot wait to hear you answer some of these questions that you've selected. So the first one that I'd love to hear your answer to is, what is a piece of advice that you have for teachers in their first year in the classroom?
This one was a hard one, and I had to learn it the hard way. And this is what I tell many of the student teachers that I had. If you're going to do something, you have to do it because you want to do it. You should not make the choice to do a Saturday concert or go on a field trip or teach certain things because you would think that the administration will appreciate it, or the parents or the students would like it and they would thank you for it. I'll just tell you a quick story. When this happened to me personally, it really dawned on me that I really need to make the choice because I want to do it. So years ago, when we were still allowed to have kids in our cars, it's not recommended anymore. But I used to pick up kids on Saturdays to take them to contests, solo and ensemble, or take them to the performance that we have to do on Saturdays and Sundays. So I got to know this choir parent very well. And finally, after a few years, she would volunteer with me. We stayed after, all these field trips. And so she and I got pretty close, and I opened up to her and I said, I think I'm finally ready to have my own family. I'm planning on getting pregnant. And this parent, who I've spent for last 4 years knowing her really well, she looked at me and said, you can't get pregnant now. My child is a senior. It will ruin her experience. And it hurt. Those words stings, even now when I have to repeat it. But that's the story I tell my student teachers going into the first field, that even your trusted ally, I opened up to her because I thought she was my supporter and she would be happy for me. But she was like, you can't be gone during my child's senior year. You can't get pregnant. And that is a lesson that will stick with me, that whatever I choose to do is because I want to do it, not because I want gratitude or recognition or anything else. So that is my advice.
Wow. Grace, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so sorry to hear about that interaction with that parent. That must have just been so disheartening to hear that from someone who you trusted and thought would be excited for you. And also, do you have children now?
Yes.
Okay. So magically you did do both.
Yeah.
Both things happened. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I thank you so much for sharing that story, and what great advice for our first year teachers out there. I haven't heard that one yet, and it is so true. And if you are in this field, we know it's because you love it. So continue to love it and continue to say no to the things that you do not need to do to preserve your own well-being. So absolutely. Oh, okay, Grace, that was incredible. Our second question for you is somewhat related, you said, which is, would you talk about how you find work-life balance?
And it goes with my first answer. I really have to pick and choose. Is this something that I really want to do? Because I think it's so often that so many female professionals, especially teachers, we feel like we fail as a mom and we feel like we fail as a teacher because we're both being pulled in both directions and we want to give it all. But, you need to prioritize what is most important. So I also went through breast cancer, and I think that was another. That's another. Now I can talk about it, with smile, but at the time it was really devastating. So like having those kind of personal experiences kind of put things in perspective. Where am I really needed? You hear from older teachers like, "Oh, this job will replace you in a heartbeat." And then when I was a younger teacher to hear that, I was like, "No, I love my students. I love my job. This is like my life. You can't take away Miss J from Grace Jeong. Like I am the same person." But having my own family and being gone on weekends and evenings, I even made a mistake of scheduling a choir trip to China in the middle of our spring break. And my husband is also a teacher. Again, had to learn it the hard way. It wasn't until I would see my 4-year-old cry through Facebook, FaceTime, because she couldn't understand why Amma was not home with her. And here I am chaperoning other high schoolers. So going back to the same thing, is this something that I really want to do? And is this something that is it really worth my time and the energy? Because otherwise I'm more needed at my house. My girls are 12 and 7 right now. They're going to be leaving my house soon. And I felt really guilty, and I felt like a horrible teacher when I had to take off some of the things in my calendar. Having 3 concerts, and now we have 2, doing all these, festivals. Now I dare narrow it down to like 3. And I felt like everybody would notice and my program is going to decline. And it really wasn't. I think it was my standard. It was the pressure that I put on myself. But when I realized after going through personal health issues that I need to slow down. We only live once. I told my kids, they get so embarrassed when I say YOLO, like I'm going to bring that back. It's so old, I know. But really, we only get first one chance at this life. And I want to be able to do both well. And I know my limits. I only still have 24 hours in a day. So I try to balance it and not feel guilty about my decision. And I think that's the hardest thing to do.
Oh, Grace, that was such a beautiful answer. Oh my goodness. Um, yes, I think a lot of people out there needed to hear that today. And I thank you for sharing about your journey with cancer and your beautiful children that you have. And I think a lot of us go into the field not just because we love music, but because we love people.
Right.
And it can be really difficult when you do love your students and you feel like you owe them 100% of you, but then you're also needed 100% with your own family and with your own body. And I think you're so right to say, recognize your limits and prioritize what you really need and what you really want. And I think just a reminder out there that it's difficult for all of us, and especially those of you who are moms, that you're absolutely crushing it and keep it up. And I'm sure your kids at home and your kids at school are so very grateful that you are there, Grace.
We all need to hear that once in a while. Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to hear that.
We're doing fine. You're enough.
You are enough. Absolutely.
We're doing fine.
And all we can do is our
enough.
best. So I thank you for sharing
Right.
that. The third question that you selected, which I love and we have not heard yet, is what do you think is going well in the field of choral music education, and what do you hope to see change?
So I seek out, being a minority myself, I didn't have a role model of female Asian choral directors. Not everybody around me, even from high school to college, was mostly white males. And they were fabulous teachers, but I never saw someone who looked like me. And so I would always seek out for female composers, female conductors, and anybody from BIPOC, community. And I've been involved in Illinois CDA diversity committee, and we met each other. We've been encouraging one another to promote more conductors of color and composers and director of women. And in the past conferences that I've been attending, I started to see that more. I started to see people that look like me on stage. Because I teach in Chicago public schools, my students are very diverse. But every time I go to these conferences, I wouldn't really see students that reflect my school. And they were great, but it was always a little bit of a disconnect. And over years, I feel like, especially in the last 3 years, we started to really see more diversity in the choral world. And that gives me hope because now I have students who are teachers and some of them are choir directors. And I am so excited to see what the future holds for them. And I want them to go to these conferences and learn from one another and see representation on stage. So that's been giving me a lot of hope, and it's been really encouraging to see that change. There still needs to be a lot more of it, but at least it's happening a lot more now in my 22 years of teaching than my first few years of teaching. So I'm really thankful for that.
Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm so glad that that was your answer. And how cool for you to have students who are now teaching and to be in the field. And what a good reminder that representation matters. And how powerful is it to
Yes.
look around and see people who not only are similar to you, but look like you and be like, wow, I can do that. And I belong in this space. That's so, so powerful. Is there anything besides more equity and inclusion and diversity in our field, anything else that you hope to see change?
I think we also deal with young generations who don't want to do something unless they already feel like they're good at it. I don't really see kids with resilience. I see a lot of kids, when I approach them to join choir, they say, oh, but I don't know how to sing. And I go, I can teach you that. But somehow they already feel like the singing thing is something that I'm not already good at, so I can't do it. And that kind of, I'm still, working through that. I don't know how to encourage them because once they come into my classroom, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And they have fun and they come back. But trying to get these students to take a chance to try to do something that you might not be good at first, but you keep on practicing and you get better. I feel like somehow we're losing that a little bit. So I would like to see some of that being discussed more because we always talk about recruitment, but I feel like that piece is missing, that we need to have a longer conversation and see what do we need to provide these students. Otherwise, I feel like singing is going to be a lost art. A lot of elementary schools don't already have choral music or even a music teacher. So that's kind of been on my mind lately. Yeah.
I so resonate with that. I think every time that I've tried to recruit a student, the response has been, oh, I can't sing. And I say the exact same thing. Well, I can teach you how to sing. Like, you just need to show up.
Right.
And I do think there needs to be a lot more conversation about that, especially with the kids in this generation that are post-COVID and having lived through all that trauma. And what a strange time to go to school and be a K-12 student. And those kids are just going to continue to grow up, and we need to figure out better ways that we can bring them in and serve them and support them, and also continue to have that conversation with each other of like, oh, what is working for you? Great. Let me try that.
Absolutely.
Oh, Grace, it's been so good to have you on, and I so appreciate you answering these questions. Is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with, or maybe shout out to your students or your colleagues or the person who nominated you?
Shout out to my former choir student, now a choir teacher, Casey Campbell. She's in her second, third year of teaching. Don't give up. Show up every day. You're amazing. And all to the listeners, we're doing enough. Let's encourage one another. We're doing enough. Let's just show up and be there for our kids, because I think that's what it's another very important part of our job, is to be there for them, to show up and be there. We don't always have to be rock stars every day, but it's the consistency and it's the fighting through it. So let's go.
Oh, that was a perfect ending. Well, Grace, thank you so much. I love the words that you just shared, and I think all of our listeners will enjoy hearing those. And I thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us, and just so appreciate you being here, and hope that you know that you are doing an incredible job, and we thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
This season, we are featuring a fierce lineup of women composers found in the Music Spoke marketplace. At Music Spoke, composers receive the majority of the proceeds from sales, retain control over their own works, and all scores are available immediately as digital downloads. At Music Spoke, they do not simply publish pieces of music. They find composers and give them the tools and freedom to promote themselves.
You just heard Stabat Mater by Sulpicia Chasis, edited by Meredith Bowen. Check out her works today on musicspoke.com and conducther.com/sponsors.
Hello, this is Sandra Snow, Director of Choral Programs at Michigan State University and Artistic Director of Mirabai. Mirabai is partnering with the Denver Women's Chorus to present Storytellers, a workshop unlike any conference you've been to. For the first time, leaders in choral music education will partner with members of GALA, the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses, to bring a workshop that blends the experiences of musical activists and classroom trailblazers. The Storytellers Conference is designed to improve your rehearsal and ensemble leadership through sessions that promote inclusive pedagogy, cultural responsiveness, and a new lens through which to view the conductor's role. Featured guests will include composer and singer Moira Smiley, and all attendees will be able to see Mirabai in concert. Session presenters will include collegiate educators from across the country and gala chorus leaders who are working as community activists. When we come together to listen to one another's stories, we all grow. Storytellers. Listen, connect, expand. To register, see storytellersdenver.org.
Hello, everyone. Jocelyn Hagan here. I just wanted to let you know that the Compose Like a Girl podcast has officially launched. Listen as I interview celebrated composers Sarah Kirkland Snyder, Chen Yi, Dale Trombor, Angelica Negron, Rina Esmail, and more. I'm also hard at work on the next batch of scores in the Compose Like a Girl choral series, distributed by Graphite Publishing. You can help me bring these new pieces to life. I'm always seeking choral ambassadors to perform these new works by emerging composers. If you're interested, please reach out to me, Jocelyn Hagan, via my website, jocelynhagan.com, or social media. I look forward to hearing from you.
And we're back.
We are so thrilled today to have one of my best friends, Colleen Hickey, on the podcast. Colleen, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you are teaching currently, and how many years you've been in the field?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm Colleen Hickey. I am in Chicago, Illinois currently. I teach pre-K through fifth grade music in Glenview, Illinois, so a northern suburb of Chicago. And this is my 7th year teaching.
Wow, you're such a rock star. I just, listeners, we're so excited to have Colleen today. Thank you so much, Col, for telling us all of those beautiful things about yourself. Your students are very lucky to have you, and we are going to dive into the questions that you selected for today. The first one is, have you completed or are you currently pursuing a career advancing degree or program while maintaining your school position?
Yes, so this is a very big part of my life at the moment. I'm currently officially 2/3 of the way through my master's program in educational leadership. I'm hoping to become an administrator in the next few years at the elementary level, which is a bit of an untraditional path maybe for a music educator. But I think I can bring a unique perspective to the administrator's office being a music teacher. I think it's just a little bit different than the background of maybe your typical administrator. So I'm excited. And it's been quite a journey doing double duty with teaching and school at the same time, but I'm really enjoying it.
That's amazing. Can you talk a little bit, Colleen, about maybe some of the things you've learned in this program that have been helpful in your teaching, or vice versa, some of the things in your teaching that you've brought to this program?
Yeah, so I think one of the things going into this program, I think music can feel like a very specific part of the school, and I was feeling a little bit maybe insecure about some of the data analysis, just some of the other subject matter, but I'm realizing that there's so much more overlap and we do so much more assessment and data than we even realize in music. And so I think being able to kind of integrate what I do with kind of the bigger picture of the school, and I'm finding that I'm being much more intentional now at work about reaching out to colleagues in different areas and just doing more collaboration. My music room feels a lot larger than it used to now that I have a broader perspective.
Colleen, that's so beautiful. And what a great way to help our listeners engage with education in a capacity that they can explore while also maintaining their school positions. Because as we know, that is a huge challenge. But I also felt, as someone that did their master's over this summer, every time I went to school or
Mhm.
took a class, when I came back to the classroom, my teaching was enhanced and I was able to bring fresh perspective and new ideas. So, how amazing that you are in the midst of that. And we're so excited for you to complete that and be a superb administrator at the elementary level. You'll be amazing.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Pavon Publishing is proud to feature outstanding women composers and conductors.
Composer Judith Harrington has created a prolific choral series for youth and treble choirs that includes Fireflies from Japan and Duérmete mi corazón from Brazil.
Shirley McRae has many outstanding arrangements for young choirs, including popular songs like Black Sheep, and Sakura.
Conductor Iris Levine maintains a treble chorus series of medium to advanced works with text by poets from Teasdale to Yeats.
Other composers and authors in the Pavon family circle include Zenaida Stewart Robles, Catherine Rundis, and Martha Wall. Explore all of these fantastic composers at Pavon Publishing. And we're back. So we're going to dive into your second question, which is one of my favorite of all time. What is one piece of advice you have for teachers in their first year in the classroom?
Yes, this question just really jumped out at me. I moved 2 years ago across the country, so I was going through all my things and I found my journal from my first year of teaching. And to imagine that that was my just daily baseline level of stress is absolutely wild. But it made me realize that new teachers need to know that that's not how it is after the first year. And I know you can say that as much as you want, and it's hard to really grasp when you're in the moment. But I think that we have a teacher shortage right now, and I think that there's just a lack of good mentorship for first year teachers. Providing that support, we're kind of just throwing them in there, and I think teaching to me is one of the only fields where a teacher who's 22 and just graduated from college is expected to do the same job as somebody who's 52 and has been doing it for 30 years. And so I think mentorship is so important. So finding a mentor would be one of my biggest pieces of advice. And then also just making note of any good thing that happens and then just looking at those things when you're having a bad day. I think that just is really key.
That's such good advice, Colleen. I know so many people are going to relate to that first year of teaching, just being thrown to the wildebeest a bit and running about, trying to keep up with everything. And one of the things that McKenna, I think, actually told me to do was to keep like a box or like a place in your email where you get notes from students or other teachers or mentors that mean a lot to you that you can turn to when you're having one of those dark days. So I love that you mentioned that. And I love the mentorship part as well. If you can find an ally in your school who's been there longer than you and knows where the laminator is, I mean, these things just make life easier.
Yeah, there's I don't know if it's a story or a poem or something. It's called the marigold effect. Marigolds are like a flower that help the other flowers around them to grow more. And so I remember somebody gave me that poem or story when I was a first year teacher and was like, find a marigold in your school. Like find one person who like when you're around them, their energy like lifts you up because there are people, I mean, it's a hard job and there are people that will bring you down in the building. And so just finding those people that bring your energy up.
Mm, I love that. Be a marigold and find marigolds.
You said something in there, Colleen, about how this is one of the few occupations where first year teachers are expected to do the same job as someone that has been in the institution or in their job for maybe 30 or 35 years. And I think that that's a really important perspective for first year teachers to have. And I haven't really heard it spelled out that way, administrative queen. And I think that that's something that just offers, again, like an additional lens or perspective. And so thanks for sharing that verbiage with us today. And first year teachers, you can do it. You got this. And find your marigolds, and then you'll be one eventually.
All right, Colleen, the third question that you selected for today is, what is your favorite thing about teaching?
Yes. I mean, this is an easy question, but a hard question. There's so many things. I think to me, something that I've been thinking about recently is just the unexpected things that made an impact on kids that you weren't expecting. I think sometimes we will plan out these big elaborate things or whatever we think is going to be our big message. Sometimes those things do have an impact, which is great. But just when you have a student who will come to you and, bring up something that you just mentioned in passing, but then that moment like meant so much to them, or that really had an impact on them, we just don't realize how every little thing that we say or do, like the students are absorbing and they hang on those every word. And so just realizing that even those small things that we don't think are a big deal, but just like that little bit of effort that you put in for those little things, make a bigger impact than we think.
That's so true. When you said that they hang on to every word, Colleen, too, I just immediately was like, especially the funny things. Especially the things that we say in passing, that then they turn into like an incredible ism of your teaching. So yes, that's so true. And it's so important to hang on to those things as the teacher as well, and be like, you know what, I am making a difference, and you can see it in just these small ways. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility too, because you realize that everything you say, nothing goes unnoticed or unheard. That's for sure.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey everyone, Gloria here from Call Time Clothing, back again to remind you to check out our newest special edition items from our collaboration with Conductor. Grab a super soft tee for yourself, a family member, a teacher, or maybe all of the above. We've truly got something for everyone. Head over to Call Time Clothing today.
And we're back. So, Colleen, we are just absolutely loving speaking with you, and we want to make it longer. And so we would like to ask you our fast 5 questions, if that's something that you would be game to do.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes,
So,
I'm game. Oh my goodness.
yay! All right, well, we're going to dive in. The first question for you is, what is your favorite either choral composer or octavo, or maybe even a part song recommendation that you would have for our fabulous educators out there?
So this one that comes to mind is definitely for the younger guys, so early elementary, but I've done this song now once in Arizona and once in Chicago. It's a Spanish and English lullaby. It's called Adoro Mi Niño, and it's been a crowd pleaser both times, so highly recommend for the little ones, and getting a little Spanish language in there too. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Incredible. Yes, Colleen is fluent in Spanish also. I'm just going to brag about you for a moment. So, yes, incredible. Thank you, Colleen. Everybody check out. Wait, will you spell it for us so that the listeners know?
ARRORRO MI, and then Nino, NINO.
Beautiful.
I might have added an extra R in there, but
excellent. We will Google.
Okay.
All right, Colleen. The second question is, what is one misconception about you?
I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm a little bit more shy, but I think that in the classroom, I am able to kind of like channel my more extroverted energy. I think people that know me in life might be surprised that my classroom persona is a bit more extroverted.
That's really beautiful, and I think really good for all of our introverts out there. And it's also okay to be multifaceted. We can be different types of parts of our personality in different spaces based on what's needed and the energy in the room. So brava to you. Our third question,
What is one word to describe you as a music educator?
The word that comes to mind immediately is unconventional. I have K through 5, pre-K through 5, and so I have all the kids, even the ones who maybe, music is not their thing, they'd rather be in PE, and so I feel like I'm always just constantly looking for ways to engage all those kids and just make a connection outside of just music. My school has 2 music teachers, which is great. The other one really loves to really stick with a traditional sequencing and curriculum, and I feel like we kind of play off of each other nicely because I like to try to add in as many kind of supplemental things as possible or a bit untraditional. So that's what I would say.
I love that. Unconventional. We haven't had that one before. That's a really good one. All right, Colleen, do you have a blooper that you could share either in your music teaching or perhaps in your performing life?
Oh man, wow. I mean, so many. So many. I have definitely like fallen down in front of the class before. One time in particular in middle school, and then the students were like, "She's tripping."
Oh, that's awesome.
I scurry about, so it's bound to happen.
There are so many connections there, though. All of us are in complete understanding and agreement. I often just like run into things and I'm like, whoops, it's a lot of bruises. It's fine. Our last question for you, going in a different direction. What is a favorite either choral memory that you carry with you or a musical moment, favorite musical moment from your classroom teaching?
One of my first years teaching, when I taught middle school, and we would do a winter concert, and I just remember I had this group of, they were like 6th or 7th grade boys who they were just like always in trouble and they were just having a hard time, and they all showed up for the evening winter concert to play. I don't know if it was like drums or boom whacker, something silly, and they all came after school, and I just remember other teachers being like, I can't believe those kids were at your concert at an evening to play the drums or whatever. Just since it was so early on in my teaching, it just like really sticks with me. 'Cause I'm like, okay, like those kids, something about being part of something like a team or a group or something bigger than themselves, like spoke to them, even if they wouldn't admit it. And it just kind of like has informed the way that I approach things like that as I go forward.
And having an incredible teacher who inspired them to be there, which is you.
Thank you.
Oh, Colleen, we're so glad you came on today and took a couple minutes out of your very busy life to talk with us. So thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
For our listeners who have not seen our social media, please check us out online. We are Conduct Her Pod on Instagram and Conduct.her on Facebook. And thank you, Colleen, for being part of our Conduct Her K12 initiative.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you including me.
Thank you for listening. This has been Conduct Her.
This episode was engineered and mixed by Mary Hannah Klontz, with intro and outro music by Jonathan Martin and ad music by Kate Krellin.
Discover more resources at conducther.com.